Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this morning's webinar. I'm just going to switch on my camera so I can say hi to you properly. Good morning to you. So if you haven't joined us on one of these things before, you're extremely welcome. I'm Paul Fury, in case you haven't clapped eyes on me before. And so some new people that we've picked up on the on-screen list. Hang on, let me just adjust my camera a tiny little bit. There we are. Excellent. So we've got Angela R. You're very welcome. Hi. Louise W. Rebecca S. You're very welcome too. Andrew D. Hi. And Alice D. And Ian. I don't know if that's an M or an H. Terrible writing, Nicola. I'm just going to go for Ian, and you know who you are. I think we've probably got some other Ians as well. We've only just skimmed the surface of the audience. I don't like the way Nicola puts old at the top of this column. I think that returners, shall we say. Young David C. Gillian, lovely to see you. Gillian P. We haven't seen you for a while. A blast from the past. Hazel P. Julia P, lots of P's today, and Peter F. Welcome back, Peter. And lots of people still walking in the door, so I'm not going to start quite yet. You've got a few instructions on the screen, as you can see, just to tell you what the score is and how this thing works. An absolutely packed session today. I'm actually rather worried that I put too much in, but that's all part of the game, and we might have to adapt as we go along, which is what presenting is all about. So really what I want to do today, and you will have heard me say this before if you've been on these webinars, is to get you to think, get you to be aware of what you do when you're doing presentations, whether it's just to a couple of people or a whole room full or a whole auditorium full. And I really, really would encourage you to experiment. It's very easy to get stuck in old habits, and more than anything, experimentation when it comes to presenting is absolutely essential if you're going to develop some sort of ease, if you're going to step away from terror, if that's where you are at the moment. I'm going to start properly in about a minute, so if you're just walking in, settling down with your coffee, don't worry, you haven't missed any material. A little plug for us and what we do. I mean, obviously, webinars, that's not my career. It's a kind of an accidental thing. It's a good way of getting in touch with people like you and sharing the way we think and the way we do projects. We do big projects for organizations, a lot of stuff to do with culture and behavior, and basically getting people and groups and organizations to change. And we do this in a rather unusual way. We get people, individuals primarily, to become very aware of the tiny little things that they do, the barely visible habits that they've got into, which either lead them to making their strategic aims happen. Big words for an individual, but we all have aims in life. Teams certainly do. Organizations have to. And what we help people to do is to understand what they're doing on a moment by moment, conversation by conversation, day by day way to either progress their own personal or group or organizational aims, or to hold them back. Because it all comes down to how we talk to each other, the kinds of conversations we're able to generate, which solve the problems, which then move organizations forward. So that's what we do. Anyway, it's the witching hour. It's beyond the witching hour. It's 9:31. If you've just walked in the door, don't worry. I haven't started on the material yet, but you're very welcome. I was just talking about a little bit about what we do in projects and when we're working with individuals, either executive coaching or team building. But okay, on with the show. I'm going to switch off my camera now, so I'm not too much of a distraction to you, and I'm going to make a start. So I'm going to launch straight in with presentations. I know I can see people still walking in the door. As I see the new names flip up onto the screen, I am going to maybe do some little recaps so that the people who are literally just walking in now don't miss those vital points at the beginning. So what is a presentation? Let's get really down to fundamentals, because a lot of people have to give them. Most of us do at some point. And it's very easy to get freaked out because there are certain traditions that we associate with presentations. This guy or this series of guys, one day it's going to be a woman, I just know it, are used to giving presentations of a particular kind, but it's a real set piece. But the interesting thing about Pope Francis, this is Pope Francis standing in his bedroom window. I think it's his bedroom window. He's probably just rolled out of bed. But the whole point is that people don't come and see the building, or they don't almost come to hear the words. They come to see the person. And here is this person. And when you're standing in the square, I've really zoomed in here, you can barely see the person. But he's the one that matters. So people have come to see, when they come to a presentation, they haven't so much come to hear the content. They can get that on a video or a podcast, but they've come to see the person. Now, I have a tendency, even now, I notice I'm doing it, I tend to go into a super energized state, which is okay. And some people like it. Other people, I'm sure, are saying, for God's sake, just settle down. But I tend to go into this sort of hyperactivity. And that's easy when we're frightened, when we're nervous, as I am always at the beginning of these webinars. In fact, I operate on nerves right the way through. Because actually there's a lot to go wrong, and I've got lots of buttons to press and stuff like that. So I have to be really aware to bring myself down, to make myself stay real. Now, at the beginning, obviously, what we're trying to do is to not make ourselves crazy, but we're trying to be true to ourselves. But that's not the tradition. The tradition is that you go up to the front and you turn into a presenter. And I'm hoping to flip that onto its head. But there are a few things that we're up against. And one of the ones that people almost always bring up in the programs that we run on presentations is this business of nerves. Now, I've visualized myself on the ledge of one of these ledges, maybe this one here with the weeds on it. And I thought, gosh, what would it be like to stand there? I don't know if any of you have done any rock climbing, but it is quite terrifying and also rather, delicious, enlivening at the same time. But certainly if I was standing, this is part of the Grand Canyon, if I was standing up here or here, I would be terrified. And it's not unlike the feeling that we get when we're just walking up to the podium or we're standing there. We're edgy, fearful. Maybe we're worried about falling. We're worried about exposure. We're worried about doing it wrong. And that's one thing I want to tangle with. This business of dread of getting it wrong. More about that in a second. So how can we cut down, if not avoid, these feelings of foreboding from taking us over? Well, one rule I realised for myself is cut out the coffee. Now, of course, we're drawn to a cup of coffee or a comforting warm drink because it helps to settle us down traditionally. But coffee is a nightmare. I noticed a few years ago, it's a good few years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, that one day I started taking a train from a new station and had a fantastic coffee shop there. And I started buying their flat whites. And I love flat white. In fact, I didn't used to know what a flat white was. I didn't realise I had 3 shots of espresso in it. But I'd get down towards London about an hour later and I would start feeling quite nervous. And maybe I had a full diary of appointments. And I thought, my gosh, this is really important today. And this happened a couple of times. And I said, well, why am I so nervous? I know these people. And then I realised, somewhat stupidly perhaps you'll think, that it was the coffee that was giving me the shakes, but it was making me think that I was nervous. And of course, I wasn't. So that really doesn't help. And so I would say to you, cut that out. It'll make a big difference. The second thing is check out, while you're not having coffee, go and check out the podium. Go and find out what it's like. The whistles and bells. Just go and get yourself comfortable with that space. The third thing is breathing, and this is one I definitely practice, and I want to show you a little exercise. So a little psychological experiment if you're ready. Now, if you're asthmatic or anything, please don't do this, but I want to show you something really, really cool here. So I'm going to, for 20 seconds, I'm going to get you breathing at a slightly abnormal rate. And I want, if you're up for this exercise, I want you just to take really shallow breaths, like a third of what you normally would. And I'm going to count you, and then I'm going to ask you to reflect on and then to put into the Q&A pane how you felt. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. In, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. If you're feeling dizzy, stop. In, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. Okay, stop. Hopefully everybody's still sitting up in their chairs. Those of you who did that, notice how you're feeling now. I'd be really interested, and shove your comments in the Q&A pane. Tell me if it has changed for you. What is it like? Anxious, Peter says. What else? Breathless. Yes, very strange feeling. It's really weird, isn't it? We knew we were doing this exercise. Nervy, strange even, panic. Yeah, panic's a good one, Louise. We panic. One of the things, and weird, we panic. I don't know if anybody's learned to swim recently. I've just been transferring over for the last couple of years from front crawl to from breaststroke to front crawl. And one of my main things, I've been swimming for years. I've been swimming at sea for years, fairly long distances, but I panic. I think I'm going to die. So this breathing thing is all caught up in nerves. So if we can break part of that panic pattern by breathing properly, simply by getting enough oxygen into ourselves, we are going to feel a whole lot better. Great experiment. Thank you so much for taking part. I hope we haven't accrued any casualties. And this is a really important one as well, which is, again, this is not so much a physical thing as a mental thing. Is please don't hang out in the green room area or talking to the other presenters. Talk to the audience. You're at the event, even if it's an internal event, to engage with the audience. Talking to the presenters, it's a bit like standing in the queue of a roller coaster watching people go up that first ramp. It builds the tension. When you're at a theme park, that's what they want. They want you to get tense and frightened. It's the whole point. But the whole point when we're trying to present is not to be tense and frightened, because we're there to do a job. We're there to have a conversation with the audience. And that is going to really put us in the wrong place if we put ourselves at the bottom of that terrifying, escalating ramp. So remove yourself, talk to the audience, go and make some friends. So that's the before. What can we actually do during? So you'll walk up to the podium with your words in your hands, pieces of paper or cards. What you want to avoid doing is getting to the podium and seeing this. Podia, to give them their proper plural name, are increasingly sophisticated. There are all sorts of whistles and bells. If you haven't gone up to inspect the podium and familiarise yourself with where you're going to be speaking from, you're going to face something like this. Now, I did a little experiment with myself yesterday evening when I was putting the finishing touches to this and looking for some of these images. And I thought, how long would it take? How many hours would I have to spend? How many even minutes would I have to spend staring at this image, sitting in the cockpit or the workspace, as they call it, in the flight deck, before this didn't seem terrifying, before all these dials weren't intimidating? And actually, if you were to leave your eyes to go over this and look for the familiar, like over here, you know, the pens, we all understand what pens are. Oh, okay, that's one thing that's a bit more familiar. Okay, the steering wheel, that's a technical term. I think that's probably for the radio. And there's a radio thing here and the throttle. So after a bit, if you read the dials, it does become more familiar. Oil temperature, oil pressure, fuel pressure, There we go. So it's a simple exercise, but for goodness sake, go and study the territory. There's an old saying in the military, time spent in recce is seldom wasted. In fact, it is never wasted. Go up to the podium and it'll get you away from the people you don't want to hang out with. The next thing is move slowly. So when you're getting up to this podium, and it's your turn to speak, firstly, set out before you really need to from your seat, but move slowly. It is your gig. You are in charge. This is part of the breathing routine again. As you move slowly, you will find that you just stay more calm, more in control. In a sense, you are faking it. But this is called biofeedback. Many of you will have heard that expression. But it's a way of telling our minds, taking control of our bodies, which in turn takes control of the brain, which in turn sends signals to the mind. So you see what I mean, biofeedback. It's telling the brain and everything else, I'm fine. I'm just fine. So a big thing that I would suggest you do when you get up there, you're settled, you've taken your time, you've moved slowly. The first thing that I do is to look for people in the audience. And I stop thinking about them as an audience. I start thinking about them as a collection of individuals. And I will pick out and make eye contact with and get acknowledgement from individuals. So I make friends. You'll notice all the people in this composite are smiling. I think this is really indicative of what audiences are. Collections of people who want us to succeed. They want to see you there. They don't want a book. They don't want a handout. They don't want a video or any other kind of recording. They're here to hear what a human being thinks on a particular topic. This last suggestion that I'm going to make to you is people find the most shocking, but I do it all the time. And in fact, I don't know if you noticed, I did it this morning. I actually admit how I am feeling. Again, this is part of the biofeedback routine. This is something new that we've learned. I mean, it always worked, but we now know why. Talking about our feelings works because it transfers the emphasis of and the activity in our brains goes from the amygdala, so the reptilian brain, the I'm frightened, get me out of here, or I'm going in for a fight part of the brain. Talking about the feeling transfers that to the frontal cortices, the front clever bits of the grey matter, which process information and make much wiser, calmer decisions. So talking about our feelings makes them into an intellectual process, and lo and behold, we feel better. So admitting to the audience, and it might sound something like this, I have to confess to being really nervous standing up here in front of you because I know you will come with your own views, or because I know I'm speaking to a very knowledgeable audience. So admit why you're frightened, and accidentally you will usually also flatter your audience. Admit if you're worried that some people will disagree or you're going to express unpopular views. People will like that. It will add some frisson. Okay, that's about the nerves and the build-up and getting you up to the podium. Now, a strong start. I think a lot of us throw away opportunities to do some really simple things that are going to get us off to a cracking start. Now, it does feel like we're on stage, but unlike the theatre, we have an opportunity here. And I don't know, I'm sure there are some thespians out there. There are loads of you in the group this morning. My goodness, yes, I've just looked up my screen. There really are loads of you. How terrifying. there is something that we can do in a presentation that they can't often do in a theatre unless it's written into the script. And it's called, and you'll know this if you're a thesp, breaking the fourth wall. There's a tradition in theatre, except for Shakespearean theatre, he does it a lot, but many playwrights, the vast majority, the players, the people who are on stage, are in a self-contained bubble. The business is between them. But when we break the fourth wall, we actually involve the audience. We acknowledge the audience, and it's quite a weird thing to do in a theatre setting, but here we can. Now, I've taken a very stark image here because I wanted to point a couple of things out about what's going on and what makes us or helps us to feel detached and freaked out. Firstly, you'll notice there's a distance problem. There's got to be, in this case, there's about 2.5 meters there. There's another 1.5 meters here. That's getting on for 5 meters. Then there is this blooming great desk in the way. And you notice here, the microphone and the way it's designed is making the presenter sit behind the desk. That's bad news. So these people also feel cut off. Another problem, and it's a small one, but it makes a big difference, is that the presenter here is being forced to a higher level. Now, maybe it's because she or he is going to be short like me, but you know what? The first thing that I would do if I was in this particular space is take my notes and get the heck onto the audience's level here. And I would walk backwards and forwards, not too much, it can be very irritating, like watching a one-man tennis match, but I would go back and forth talking to people, asking them stuff, and not get stuck back here. Absolute disaster. You can do that wherever you are. I once saw somebody in a presentation. I know he had a huge deck and lots of visual aids, everything. This is about it's about 40 years ago. Actually, I was at school. It was a Saturday morning lecture. 400 bored boys watching this guy. And 5 minutes in, the lights go out, the fuses have gone. When they do bring the lights back up, the projector, you guessed it, is bust. The bulb has popped. This guy gives the entire presentation sitting on the edge of the stage, talking about what he was going to say, quite happily. And the audience is absolutely captivated. Not a single visual aid, not a spark of activity from the projector. Huge admiration. It can be done, and you can do it. It just shows we depend too much on the tech. And by the way, if you're curious, that presenter was my brother, who was only 4 years older than me at the time. So there we go. So, firstly, get participation immediately. Get people to put their hands up. Get them to think about something. So you might start out with a line like, think about a time when, and give me a nod when you've thought of a person who is, get the audience thinking. So get them to put their hands up to something, get them thinking, or give them a weird picture on the screen and ask them, what's this? Does anybody have any ideas what this is? And you put something up. The second way to start off, so audience participation, the second way to start off is to tell them a personal story. Now, when I was preparing this presentation, and then you have a photograph of you preparing the presentation, and this was actually me yesterday evening, 6 o'clock, writing. Or on the way here, I noticed that. Or because you've been speaking to the audience just before, I was just talking to Peter outside and he gave me an idea that I hadn't actually thought of before. So that's a really strong way to kick off. Getting their participation or telling them something really personal. Maybe something that literally just happened a few minutes before. What people, and this is a way to really stuff up a strong start. I'm going to show you something. I noticed this particularly yesterday. I have an irritation with books that have very long introductions. I have the attention span of a gnat, and in fact I noticed that I only got 7 pages into this book because I got so bored with trying to wade my way through the first 6. So this is what happens in this book. So you start off, okay, cover, yeah, okay, I've bought the book, thank you very much indeed. And then the next thing is, okay, yeah, I'll get through that. And then I open the next page. Oh, it's another shot at telling me what the title is. Okay, fine, I get that. And then it tells me who okay. Okay, I'm so pleased, Bhaskar and Jean, revelers of blind spots, or revealers of blind spots. Okay, and then we go on, another dedication, and so on. And what people, and the content section. A really big turn-off in presentations is when people tell you what they're about to tell you. I know if you've been on a course, that's probably what they told you to do. And I'm going to tell you not to. Please don't do the big content section. Just go straight in and then explain afterwards. Do the first 5 minutes and then give them a bit of a content section from where you're going there. Because the whole idea of the first few minutes is to grab their attention. A presentation is not like a book. Okay, so impact killers. So we're kind of on that theme already. One of the biggest impact killers for me is going on or seeing people read a script. I saw a very famous peer of the realm, head of industry. Now, maybe if I'm being really fair to the guy, this is the year before last, maybe he was getting really, really old. But I was so annoyed at the fact that he just read from a script. What he said was very intelligent and erudite and born of many years' experience. But I felt insulted that he wouldn't just speak. And frankly, I wouldn't have minded. Maybe he would have if he'd lost his place but he seemed to be cogent enough to be able to read beautifully. And I want to show you what this is like. So this is my script from today. And I hope you didn't know that I was reading from a script. I wasn't actually reading. I was kind of referring to it. But if I'm to read it, it's completely different. I'm going to just read it now for the heck of it. And you can tell how my voice changes. I'm going to read the last paragraph. We look at the language, the behaviour, the traditions, feelings, and all the ingredients that determine how people speak to each other, how they treat each other. And once we've pointed these things out a few times, they begin to see it for themselves and then start to do things and so on. Now, I think I'm pretty good at reading, and I read with expression, and I wrote this stuff, but it's different. It's not me. So, the rule for me here is that accuracy absolutely kills impact. Don't worry about the accuracy. You've probably got a handout, but if you go in for reading script, you're going to kill it. And you will not endear yourself to the audience. They're not there to see something perfect. Okay, the second way that you can really kill your impact is by not getting the detail wrong, by giving people too much detail, too much complexity. For example, if you're in the nuclear business and you have to explain what uranium is, reading, putting up diagrams of molecules and atoms and stuff like that is a real turn-off, particularly if you're speaking to a lay audience. So I've pinched something here from one of my favourite series, Chernobyl. And in that, Jared Harris, who plays Valery Legasov, he needs to explain to the Deputy Prime Minister what the whole problem is with Chernobyl and why basically everybody's going to die. And so he's trying to explain uranium, and he just absolutely nails it. Now, I would have played you the recording. I'm going to tell you in a second why I didn't, apart from copyright problems. So this is how he explains uranium. And I'm going to quote to here, and I am going to read, but it's the words that I want you to pay attention to. He says, and every atom of uranium is like a bullet penetrating everything in its path. Metal, concrete, flesh. Now, Chernobyl holds over 3 trillion of these bullets. Some of them will not stop firing for 50,000 years. And he says it, that's absolutely, I just transcribed that yesterday evening. And I just think that's the richest and grimmest and briefest explanation of what uranium and what radiation can do. And you've noticed I've literally just picked out one image and tried to rip out the most important words. A rule I set for myself and I suggest to you is be able to, a 6-year-old should be able to understand what you've been talking about on any topic whatsoever. Okay, enough about the grimness. The third impact killer that I please ask you not to do is to use cheap visuals. This is my particular bugbear. You know that if you've been on this webinar before, you're getting the impression now. I use a lot of visual aids. I like them. It lends itself particularly to the medium, but I don't use visual aids that are just awful. I really don't understand that one. And these are, that actually cost me money. Oh no, did it? No, I took it off ClipArt. That's right. So ClipArt has got a lot better. It's not actually called ClipArt anymore, but these are all free with Word or Office. But still, why would you? This one, yes, this is taken off the web. Dreadful. These false or fake office situations are just terrible. Now, this one is my favourite this month for randomness. I cannot figure out why anybody would want to use this. I don't know who would be the most insulted. The woman, females, women in general, guitar players, waiters. I just don't know what the point is. Somebody had a sick mind when they put that one together. Dreadful graphics like this. Now, it's beautifully done. It just is so tacky and so 70s. Well, if they had computers in the 70s. If they had PowerPoint, that's what they would have used. Also, the blurry ones with the writing. No. Please don't. It's been done. You can do better. You definitely can do better. And this one, to leave you with this one, oh dear. I mean, I don't know who invented this. And again, incredibly clever. You see a lot of these and you think, gosh, that's clever. But oh my goodness, I hate it. Maybe because it's so clever. Maybe because it is so polished. It totally lacks anything like authenticity or originality. There we have it. I apologise if you've used any or all of these, especially the lady with the guitar on the waiter's tray. If that's a favourite of yours, I'm sorry. This stuff, these visual aids thing, is a very personal thing, but you're getting my take on it this morning. Okay, and onwards to visual aids and getting these right. So I set myself certain rules and I bang on about these during programs when I'm coaching somebody one-to-one for a big pitch or a big presentation, or when I'm taking a group through our ideas and beliefs around presentations. I have put some particular things that I try and do. One is I try and use really good quality materials. I try and get the best version of images, or rather they're expensive, there we are, luxurious. I spend money on images, probably somewhere between 40 and 50 quid just for this webinar, because I don't want to be stuck with lousy pixelated images. A few things for you in how you use images. Be really bold, use zoomed in images, and also if you are going to use words, use a very few words and they'll really stand out. And be really bold and obvious as well. I'm just going to show you something else. Here we go. So zoom in, that's the whole zoom in thing. So if you're making a point about health and safety and about cables, as I've got there, then you go right in there. There's something rather artistic, rather real about good close-up photographs. That's a particular style that I have, but I like good photographs. It's better if you can't find something online, go and take it yourself. Our phones are so brilliant now that you can actually take a lot of your own visual aids. Lucky us. Use them when words won't suffice. And I've got a particular example. It's quite a long example, but I'm going to do it because I think it's really cool. And it really flummoxed Nicola yesterday. I showed her this. I said, what do you think? I'm thinking of using this tomorrow morning. Do you think this is going to work? She was quite fed up with it. So and still can't figure it out. And I can't figure it out. Okay, so here is an example of where you can't explain this. And this is a good way of showing that some things just need pictures. Okay, so these tables, I'm now going to assert to you, these tables have exactly the same surface area on the table. The surfaces of the two tables are exactly the same. I'm hoping you're thinking, this guy is talking nonsense. I'm going to show you through a sequence of photographs that I took of this book and a piece of acetate that I had with me. So there you see, I've drawn a rectangle on a piece of acetate. I actually traced it on the long table. You can see that. And I'm now going to move that across and transpose it onto the other table. There's no trickery there. The shine is just because it was poorly lit. And you can see that it is exactly the same thing. For me, that is a classic use of visual aids. I could not have said that in a believable way with words. There we go. There are some things that you just need a picture for. There used to be, and this made me smile when I found this image. I couldn't find a picture of an overhead projector, and then until I found this one. This used to be an overhead projector, and what this guy is doing, presumably a university lecturer, a college lecturer in the States, he's actually drawing live. I love live drawings. It is still possible to do it, but not that easy. So this sort of genre is dead, but hand-drawn things I think are better than beautiful diagrams. I love hand-drawn diagrams. It looks real. If you can find a way to draw them at the time on a flip chart, break the rule. Have a flip chart on your stage. Make sure you're drawing big enough for people to see at the back. And lastly, on visual aids, don't look at them, look at the audience. This guy's got it right because he's able to show them something and keep eye contact. So that's spot on. Hilarious machine, but a very, very good one indeed. Okay, we're down to the last few minutes and I wanted to do something on Q&A, on the question and answer bit. I said that I would. And the Q&A for most people is both a point of relief and a point of embarrassment, and I'll explain. It's a point of relief because you've got to the end of your material. It's a point of embarrassment because by the time when you get there and you ask the fateful question, any questions? All of a sudden, the audience seems to evaporate. They just disappear. And so I want to get you out of the habit of asking, does anybody have any questions, or are there any questions? Because it's awful. And it took me a long time to figure out, giving these webinars, and it's I'm not looking for pity here, but it's quite difficult giving webinars. It takes some getting used to because you don't even have the audience in front of you. I can see a list of names up on my screen, as high as the screen, but I don't really know what you're doing. So I'm taking it on faith that you're actually paying attention. Now, I don't want to freak you out, but on Nicola's machine, she can actually tell who's paying attention and who isn't. I will tell you how it happens. It's just where which window you've got open at the time. So if you've got other windows open in front of the screen, in front of this screen, You're in big trouble with Nicola. Fortunately for you, I don't know that. But by the end, I'm in the same, or you on stage or at the podium are in the same position as I am here, Paul Fury, this morning giving this webinar. I don't know if there's anybody out there. I don't know if anybody has a question. I can't read your faces. So do not ask if there are any questions. And if you do hear those words tumble out of your mouth, what you can do is to remedy the situation. When you hear silence for 5 seconds, you ask yourself a question. That act of asking yourself a question makes you go first. Nobody wants to go first. And it also gives the audience the opportunity to figure out their own questions for you. When you do get a question from the audience, wherever they are in the audience, you will probably hear them better because they're facing you. A really cool, helpful trick is to repeat the question that you've just been asked loud and clear over the PA system to the whole of the audience, because otherwise you'll end up giving an answer that 95% of the audience won't understand because they didn't hear the question. My fourth Q&A tip is keep your answers short and to the point. There are lots of things this is irritating, but one of the most irritating things about presenters, even if they've done a really good job, is if they go off on one somewhat in relief on the question that just been asked. Because if that question isn't of interest to other people in the room, they'll switch off. Right, there we are. It's 10:10. I want to guess what I'm going to do next. I'm going to ask you if you've got any questions. But I'm not. I'm going to ask for your thoughts, your questions, your comments, if you have them. And it would be great to hear from you. And you can also probably guess that I have a question up my sleeve waiting to be answered already, to give you the opportunity to think of your own. But one of the ones that I do get asked, I haven't yet been asked this morning, but it might come up, is about humour. And in fact, I was doing a presentation program. I don't call it skills because I don't think presenting is so much for skill as a sort of feel. It's a sort of capability that we build. But it was petrochemicals and very, very, very technical people. And they said, what about jokes? What about humour? And mostly I just cradle my head in my hands and say, no, please don't. Some people can. I'm coaching somebody in the city. He's a lawyer. He is the most hilarious storyteller. The good bit is, though, he doesn't know he's hilarious. His stories are very poignant. They often involve his wife, his kids, children at the, just really clever, thoughtful observations. He can do it. If you have to ask the question, don't do it. One question from Louise. Are there any tricks for going blank or forgetting where you are? I'm just going to open the so I can address you properly, Louise. Going blank, that's a really good one. I can't see the rest of your question. I'm just going to click on it. Fear of a long silence. Okay, forgetting where you are. The best thing I can tell you, Louise, is to really slow it down. I've done it a few times this morning, where I just have a sea of words in front of me. Some of my pages have a whole load of instructions and I get momentarily poleaxed, terrified. It's horrible. And I just stop and pause. And then when I stop and pause, it only takes a second for me to get my place again or to find the right button on the screen. And the audience really like it too, I think. So slow down and stop. You don't have to apologise. You're collecting your thoughts. Dan is asking, do you have a ratio of prep time to presentation time? Oh, good question, Danny. You're not going to like this. I used to think, 10 10 to 1 or 6 to 1. How nonsense. I can't be bothered to prepare that long. For this 35 minutes of material, or 30 minutes of, 40 minutes of material, I finished at 10:10. I reckon that's probably about 8 hours, 9 hours, but I'm doing a lot of silly drawings and stuff like that. So it probably is 6 to 1. Probably about 6 to 1. I hope that helps, Danny. It's quite a long time, surprisingly. So start early. If you know you've got a presentation coming up in June or next month or in 2 weeks' time, start immediately. Start getting your thoughts together. And if you're interested, ask me and I'll tell you how I get my first thoughts together. It's a killer way of really cutting to the chase and getting your material selected and sequenced. Claire, how do you overcome a nervous voice, like when your voice gets shaky? Okay, what you can do, Claire, is to speak more loudly. Slow down. Tip number 2, loud. 1, 2, slow down. 3, fess up, admit it, and talk about it. So, my gosh, I can hear my voice is really shaky at the moment. I hope you can hear me at the back. I mean, I just think it's so human to admit to how we're feeling. And I think people like it because they're engaging with a human being. There are loads more questions. So I know I've got as far as Claire. I'm going to come back to the Q&A screen in a minute. I just want to finish on time. And I also want to tell you about some live workshops that we're running. So I'm momentarily going to turn the camera off for a second and back for the summary. Final thoughts. The first thought is that you are there for the humans. They want a human being. You're it. And look for the people in the humans in the audience. Secondly, preciseness and correctness is great. So that you might be a cello player, you read the music, you do it beautifully, you give a great performance. That's fine. But what I want to say to you is that there is also the chance here to riff a bit, to play around, to do something a lot less formal. It's whatever plays to your strengths. And finally, finish on time and go and get that coffee. Finishing on time, for me, if you finish on time, it means you did it all right up till then. And it is the ultimate sign of respect for the audience. Even if the speaker before you overran, never, ever overrun. Nobody will thank you for cold, bitter coffee. You can see where I got all my images from. 123RF, they're terrific. Dreams Time, good but expensive. And the other images you will see were covered by the Creative Commons license. And loads of brilliant photographers behind all those images. I wasn't going to list them all. So hopefully you've had fun. Just a plug. It's 10:15. I can see a plug for next month. We've restarting our live workshops. Friday the 27th of March. Have I written this up anywhere? Oh my goodness gracious. No, I didn't. Oh, that was silly of me. I didn't do a slide for this. Okay, Friday the 27th of March. I'm going to do one right here and now. 27th of March. And that we're going to do 3. One at 8:30. We're doing one at 12:30, and we're going to be doing one at 4:30. A different topic for each. These two ones are 90 minutes each, and this one is 2 hours. The first is this one is 8:30 is coaching for non-believers. 12:30 is having difficult conversations, how to start them, how to finish them well. And 4:30, it's a bit longer, it's fixing a broken group. They will all be in central London, and they're free. All we ask is that you bring a real problem that you are still tangling with. You will need to email Nicola, and that's ns@propertyguide, paulfury.com and book yourself a place. We suspect these are going to fill up really quickly. So if you want a place, I suggest you book today. If you want to bring some colleagues along, great. It's a good way of finding out what we do and how we work. So particularly if you have an interest for your team or for your organisation, or you know somebody who does, then bring them along. And it would be great to see you. But please do book. And we'll feed you. We'll have a great venue, and you have a terrific time. So well worth a couple of hours out of work or finishing early for. If you have to go now, have a terrific weekend. It was wonderful to see you on screen. I'm going to carry on with the Q&A now for the questions after Claire's that I haven't yet answered. Bye for now. So if you can stay. If you can't stay, obviously this is all going to be still recorded. If you can stay, so much the better. And I'm going to carry on responding to the questions that I've got here. Yes, Claire's was the nervous voice. So talk louder, slow down, or draw attention to it. Nice tip from Hazel. You can find really great images for free on websites like Pixabay. Oh, great. Thanks, Hazel. That's really good. Bronya, Louise, it's referenced Louise's question about are there any tricks for going blank? Louise, if you use color coding highlighters to mark the start of sections, it's useful for the eye. Oh, that's a great one. Thanks very much indeed, Bronya. Do you, a question here from Tim Anderson. Do you set objectives and summarize, say, 3 points at the end? I do kind of set objectives. I sort of say, my objective here is to stimulate thought, make you more aware, and prompt you to make to experiment. So my objectives are always the same, but it might be that I want to explain to you the European exchange rate mechanism with particular reference to ding, ding, ding. That's fine. Just don't do it for the kickoff right at the beginning. Something like that I would talk about. Most people don't know the difference between a euro and a pound, or something like that. And I might even have one in my sticky mitts. Today I want to explain to you about exchange rate mechanisms, and in particular, and bosh, then you're off, and you can give them your content section. Hopefully that helps. Here we go. Hugh. Hello, Hugh. What about starting from a known place and pick up the audience and take them with you? Yes, I like that. Start from where the audience already knows. Yeah, I like that. How do you cut through your killer thoughts to get... how do you cut through and get your killer thoughts together? And that's from Danny. Now, the killer thoughts, I think you're talking about a situation where you're needing to prepare slightly differently. And what I do, I'm going to show you on screen, because this is probably worth doing. So I try not to work too hard on the day. I'm trying to get rid of all this stuff. Don't know where it is. Okay, so I'm going to have to rub this out. Can I rub this out? Yeah, I can. Bear with me while I just get my eraser working properly. Okay. So, killer thoughts. So this is how I prepare for a presentation. I begin with these said killer thoughts, Danny, and I'll say, okay, so today it might have been nerves. I know that's an important one. Visual aids, time. What else do I want to talk about? I want to talk about complexity. I want to talk about a good start. I want to talk about the finish. So I just randomly put down all the things that I can think of that I know I'll want to talk about. Sorry, I was looking for the camera. It was here all the time. And then what I'll do next is to circle the really important ones. And there'll be other ones here, which I think not quite so important. I'll circle the really important ones, and then I will put them into sequence. And lo and behold, I have my running order there, and I've been able to give things the right priority. And then underneath each, I'll put the bullet points that pertain to each. So before I have absolutely, and this is all done by hand, by the way, and before I've set any of my pause onto my keyboard, I know exactly how much I've got. I can see intuitively there. Have I got too much? How many points? Main points? I've got 6 main points. I've got 15 sub points. That's a bit much. So that's how I do it, and that's how I make sure that I don't miss any of my favourite killer points. I hope that does it for you. Danny, thank you for the question. How do you prevent fillers such as I have a problem with that. Slowing down is the thing that I do with myself. I give myself time to breathe and to think. I think that's the best, and you can see what I was doing there. It's when we're in a rush, or we think that we're going to get interrupted. So maybe it's a habit that we have from conversation when we're trying to put placeholders into a conversation. So go slow, give yourself time to think, and then you'll also give yourself time to notice the vulnerable bits. I think, Claire, I've answered the how do you collect your thoughts for planning for a presentation. Hopefully that does it for you. Tell me if not. Conrad, good morning. How do we watch this again? It's going to be recorded. Conrad, I'll get that link out to you probably mid to end of next week when Dennis, the editor, has prettified it and taken out all the ums and ahs. Paul, Tim here. Be good to hear your thoughts on how to get started. I have my first bit of public speaking coming up in April. How to get started. Is that right at the beginning of the presentation, Tim? You might want to, if you just clarify that for me. Is that the beginning of the presentation? Just type that in if you're still there. I think you're still there. I'm just seeing this. No, Tim's had to go. Okay. I think it's right at the beginning, and for Tim, and he'll be watching this back on a recording, it's starting slowly and even pensively. You go up and you look at the audience, and you've looked at your papers and you've arranged yourself, and you make sure you've got your watch, taken that off your wrist, and you put it on there. And then when you've settled down, you make a start in your normal voice. That, I think, is one of the richest and most interesting ways to start, Tim. Peter, yes, Central London venue. Can you please repeat the seminars and at which times? Shivani, I'm going to put that out. Oh, I know, I can see you're still here. I will put that out, I promise you, because I've rubbed it all off now. We're going to put that out in a little release in the next few days. So we'll put that out a few times. You definitely won't miss it. But basically, it's on the Friday, the 27th of March, 8:30, 12:30, 4:30. Coaching, difficult conversations, and fixing a group dynamic that's gone bust. And a lot of people, Hazel, an interesting one here from Hazel lastly. A lot of people use crutch words. It's great to practice. It's great practice to video yourself. Yes, absolutely. Fantastic. If you're left over, there's plenty of you here still. Thank you so much for coming along. Have a wonderful weekend. I hope you can stay out of the rain. It's utterly miserable now. But anyway, it's a cup of coffee and time for a long night in watching movies. So take care of yourselves and look forward to seeing you at our live workshops in March. Bye for now. Oh, and thanks to Nicola upstairs who does all the hard work, and thanks to you for coming. Take care. Bye bye.